I would like to thank all for inviting us. Thanks to the organizers.
Be loud this side.
I will now provide a brief overview of the current situation and brutalities of Pakistani forces in Balochistan. When we hear the name Balochistan, it is often associated with sorrow and pains. Ever since Pakistan has occupied the region of country Balochistan, the people of Balochistan have struggled to live a normal life. Pakistan's oppressive policies and actions have put our livelihoods, culture, traditions and languages at risk. Most of the population in Balochistan used to live in the mountains and rely on herding for their livelihoods. However, with increased military operations, their livelihoods are at stake, and they are forced to vacate their mountains and villages. Just in February 2023, there were 39 cases of forced disappearances, including 2 women, Rashida Zahri and Mahar Baloch. Mahar Baloch was first subjected to forced disappearance and then falsely accused of being a militant. She was abducted along with her children, along with her mother-in-law and 2 children, in fact. And they were all kept incommunicado for more than 24 hours. Although the others were released, Mahar Baloch remained missing. After severe protests and manifestations by the Baloch masses, she was presented to a court after a week with fake charges. Similarly, Rashida Zahri was abducted with her husband and children. Although Rashida was released after 11 days of torture, her husband Rahim Zahri is still missing. Another heart-wrenching incident came from the Kishkor area of district Awara. This was the news of Dr. Khan's brutal and bloody death. He was summoned to an army camp where he was brutally tortured. After his release, he succumbed to his injuries and died. Earlier, Pakistan was the sole perpetrator of human rights violations in Balochistan. But now China has joined hands to accelerate this suppression and to implement a so-called developmental scheme, a part of the One Belt One Road initiative, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The forced implementation of this project has resulted in the displacement and enforced disappearance of thousands of native people along its route in Balochistan. Numerous villages have been burned to pave the way for CPEC, and many army camps and checkpoints have been established in the name of security for Chinese interests, when in fact these army personnel are responsible for the brutal human rights violations there. Chinese-Pakistan alliance not only threatens Western interests but also directly attack the basic human rights of Baloch people. The Baloch struggle to protect their liberal and secular values against Pakistan's ideologically Islamized army and its religious proxies. It is time for the international community to recognize that the Baloch issue is not just a regional problem but a global one. The world must stand with the Baloch people in their right for freedom against Chinese hegemony and rising Islamic extremism that is Pakistan. It is also concerning that Europe still maintains economic ties and agreements with Pakistan despite the severe human rights violations in Balochistan. As a global economic and political power, Europe bears a responsibility to hold Pakistan accountable for its actions in Balochistan. The generalized scheme of preferences, that is GSP Plus agreement, requires Pakistan to uphold and respect human rights laws and values. We urge Europe to not only bring up the dire situation in Balochistan during the upcoming meeting, but also to take firm actions to hold Pakistan accountable for its action. The meeting for extending or reviewing GSP Plus status for Pakistan should be conditioned, or we can demand, should be cancelled to honor the fundamental rights and dignity of the people of Balochistan. The Baloch people have suffered enough, and it is time for the Europe to take a firm stance against the oppressors and stand in solidarity with the oppressed. Pakistan poses a grave threat not only to Balochistan but also to the peace and stability of the entire region. The region can never achieve security and stability as long as Pakistan continues to nurture and support fanaticism and terrorism. The civilized world should support nations and indigenous movements fighting against the dangerous religious fanaticism. The people like Baloch, Sindhis, Pashtuns are struggling to preserve centuries-old secular civilizations from the clutches of religious extremists and the extremist Pakistani army. The international community must take notice of this urgent issue and support the efforts of those who are fighting for freedom in the region. Once the Baloch people control their mineral-rich land and restore the freedom of their occupied nation state, their progressive values, open markets and humanitarian policies can contribute to sustainable peace and progress for Balochistan, for the neighboring nations and the world at large. Let us help the Baloch people become masters of their own land with a progressive secular society, open market and humanitarian stance. On the other hand, if the international community continues to support countries formed on fascist and religious extremist ideologies like Pakistan, it will fuel and sustain the rise of global terrorism to an even more dangerous level. Thank you for your time.